What's going on, YouTube? 1 in 5 American citizens over the age of 65 or at the age of 65 cannot retire in the United States of America. That's 20% of the 60-plus aged American in the working class who should have the means to retire. What I want to discuss is both the plight, the agenda, or the circumstances as to why people at retirement can't retire. And I also want to talk about some solutions and maybe some options on how people can retire. If this is your first time seeing Black, this is your first time seeing my channel, hearing about my channel, please hit the subscribe button. Please leave a like. Please comment something as you watch this video. Let me know if you're going through this. Let me know your way out. Let me know if things in America should change, especially for the potential retirees, because it's getting worse, guys. It's getting bad. So do those things real quick. Hit the sub, hit the like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. It was once said that all men were created equal. All men would have access to basic living conditions. Food to eat, clothes on our back, a bed to sleep in, a job to make fair wages. We vote to be represented by the government. We vote to be heard. But it doesn't matter. Who is upholding the true values that are the core of America? Who can really help? Because while the rich get richer, while the influence gains more power and reign, who's looking out for us? The people. Who has our back when we become less than? This is America. Gosh, I don't know. This is something that kind of makes me sick to my stomach, guys. I just think it's just the ultimate plot, the ultimate agenda for the American capitalist, right? For some of those rich folk whose companies, whose net worths, whose personal lives are built on the backs of basically slaving other people, and slaving people with, the carrot, slaving people with the opportunity to get somewhere, although all environment factors doesn't allow people to get where they need to be, and that's retirement. And I think we've now been changing, and this is what's crazy. Due to desensitization, due to not having a way out, I think we've been changing how we look at retirement. I think people are getting used to not being able to retire in its actual velocity or term. So now people say, if I'm retired, I'll just retire from working at this job or working in corporate, and I'll go do a part-time job at McDonald's or something, or do some delivery, or attempt to sell some product. But I'm at the age of retirement, right? Where if I'm maximizing my working ability, right? I've been working for 30, 40, sometimes for people 50 years, right? My retirement should be based on passive income, whether that's a government check, so pension or SSI, that's a 401k, some sort of investments, IRA, or I've invested in property that I had, or some basic saving. There could be anywhere from 3 to 5 streams of passive income / residual income for people who are over 60. But it's not happening. It's actually, the divide is getting worse. 1 in 5 Americans 65 years of age and older cannot retire, will not retire. I was watching a video. There was this lady talking about how, she's working to basically supply her husband medication for an affordable price. She's in her 60s. Her husband, I think, is in his 70s. They've been working forever. And she literally said on camera, and this is where we're at in 2026. She says on camera, unless she physically or mentally can't do it, she's gonna push herself until the day she dies, working to afford medication that probably was the best solution for her husband because he was working too long. You know, we take medication like, you know, and this is a different topic, but a lot of medication, right, is basically suppressants. You know, it doesn't take away the problem, right? It doesn't alternate your health status, because medication means you keep using it. It's not a solution. It's a maintenance factor. You have to keep paying a company because you remain sick. And we gotta really think about, why do we remain sick? Whole nother topic. Anyway, yeah, that was a lady who was working because she has to afford medication, you know, for her husband. And obviously that's a whole nother topic, because that goes into universal health care, right? So we're not gonna talk about that. But ultimately, people are working for survival. At any age at this point, it's not like people have not gotten to a point, most people, a lot of people. I try to make sure I use the word most and a lot, you know, in the best ways. I don't want to put everybody in a box, and I don't want to downplay or water down my point at the same time. So I try to make sure I use those terms correctly. But a lot of people, guys, millions of Americans are working to survive. I've been around all these age groups, and people work for all the same reason. I have not, it's little to almost none where people are actually working to retire. And we're not even talking about retiring early, just retiring on time, right? Being able to tap into your 401k without getting extra service fee or tax free because you're too young, right? Which is another topic where I don't agree that you have to be 59 and a half to essentially retire or tap into something you've been contributing. Even if your employer contributes to your account, you've been putting the blood, sweat, and tears on that damn job. So you should be able to, you know, tap into it earlier, even without taxes. I mean, damn, you know, like, we live in America to where, you know, if you can make 50 or 60, you're blessed, because all the food and all the bad crap that's being put in our body. So we should be able to tap into something younger, you know, get more life younger. Anyway, another topic at another time. So it's like, cool, okay, let's tap in. We're 59 and a half, we're 60, we're 65. And so we can't even get to that age and successfully retire. People are quitting a job, or people are quitting job one because they have 2 or 3 jobs, because 2 out of 3 Americans need 2 or 3 jobs or have 2 or 3 jobs, right? So I think retirement in like post-COVID, I will say, right, has been basically changed to, let me try to just work 1 job instead of 2 or 3, or let me just work part-time instead of full-time. That's the definition of retirement now, because we can't change the system, it seems like, right? So we got to change that narrative. Like, the narrative has to fit us to where, like, we succumb to feeling better about our situation. Okay, at least I'm not working 80 hours, but I work 30 to 40. And we shouldn't be doing any of that shit. I don't think so. Not in my weird head. I don't think we should be working at all at a certain age, guys. Like, come on. Like, if you're putting in blood, sweat, and tears for 40 to 50 years, I mean, honestly, like, really, leave a like if you agree. Leave a comment if you don't. Really, guys, you know, we shouldn't be working that long. I worked around people who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and a lot of them, I'll say almost half these people, right, men and women, actually went to retire. They've stopped working for a couple months or a couple years, and they came back. And you know what they'll tell me? Half them say they actually need the money, which is obviously true, because why are you working if you don't need the money? The other half tell me they're bored, and they're lying because they need the money. There is no way on earth I believe anybody should believe they are bored and they're willing to go back to work to be micromanaged and wait for a check and to clock in and to go on break, to stretch your legs when they're told to. Nobody is bored enough to go do that. Comment if you disagree. People go back to work at 60 and 70 because their retirement plan didn't work. They didn't fundamentally check on how much money they actually was saving or how much money they actually need. They didn't lessen their lifestyle after they've quit their job. So they were spending the same amount to what they were spending when they had an income, when they had more income. Because, right, retirement is subsidized in a way for more people. You know, people can make or keep more money on them. But your income is basically, you know, it shrinks a bit, right? Because you're not working. But I'll tell you this, and I'm going to get into this in a second. That's okay. People think that you got to be rich to retire, and you don't. You don't got to be rich to retire. I'm not even gonna talk about leaving the States. You can retire successfully in America. You can, if you're not delusional, right? If you're not listening to your friends and to your neighbors and to your family members, and you're not keeping up with the Joneses, you can successfully retire. If you're able to keep some sort of income, guys, you can retire. And I'll tell you why. If you decrease your liabilities and debts, you can retire, and people can't. And here's the proof. The average American who applies and gets SSI makes just under $2,100 a month. Should be a lot more, but it also tells you where we're at with the wage gap, right? Because SSI is dependent on a percentage of what you've been making over the last couple of years. So obviously at 62 is the minimum, and then you could get your maximum at 70, which is another gimmick, okay? Like you can get 2,100 at 62, but you could get 3,200 at 70. Work another 8 years. Fuck no, hell no, I'm not doing that shit. But people succumb to it, and here's why. Average American is getting $2,100 on SSI. And mind you, this is just a single person. So really think into what I'm saying. Think about how it relates to you. If you're in a situation where you're married or you're living with a roommate and you guys are both retired, well, that's $4,200. You guys are making $50K a year. And we're still talking about America. The problem is, again, because it's never about income, guys. It's never about income. It's never about what's coming in. It is always about what's coming out. However you want to look at it. Single, 2,100, couple, or with a friend, 4,200. But the average American is also spending more than what they make. This is the trap, and this is the problem. Housing costs. Housing costs is still $1,600+ a month. Food is food, so that's running people $500 to $600. And then the other thing is medical, guys. Around $340 per month, which is an average. So that means, guys, this can be more for people. If you're making $2,100, barely $2,100 a month, for not working or for not working anymore because you worked for 50 years, right? But you're spending $2,600 a month, then how long is that retirement going to last? Because obviously the income that you're getting from your SSI, it only covers 85%, whatever that math is. Do 2,100 divided by 26. The other $500 to $600, guys, is coming out of your savings, where it shouldn't be. So this is why people have to go back to work. People who are older are experiencing more hardship with health, so they're not attributing that, right? They're not thinking about why I'm spending more money. Well, now you're more sick, and you feel like you have to go and take medicine. You feel like you have to go to the doctor, and some people have worse situation than others. But again, a whole nother topic and a whole nother video for a whole nother day. Working or being in a society environment, as in many places, most places in America, is hurting people physically. It's the gambit. I always talk about it. Keep people sick, docile, and broke. The working class is expanding by default. And all these big pharma companies and medicine companies and businesses, they all work hand in hand, guys. It's a plot to expand the working class. It just is. We got to see it by now. Say you have 2 million people in the city, and they're all over 60. What's crazy is 400,000 of those people are sick, broken, docile. They can't seem to get out of work. They can't seem to not be able to afford food, housing, and medical care just off of retirement funding, SSI, pensions, if they're still existing for people, 401ks, savings, and or other investments. They can't do it. They have to go work. But you guys can just Google it, because I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I should have done that, and I didn't. So my apologies on my due diligence here. But Google how many people are 65, or I'll just say 60, because you can tap into 401k. And I don't think you should wait another 2 to 5 years to get some sort of retirement, guys. I just don't. But Google, guys, ChatGPT, how many people are in America that are 60 right now? How many people? I know it's well in the millions. And then divide that by 5. That's how many people that can't retire. And I'm probably talking a lot of people right now, like or comment if you're one of these people facing that 6th decade in your life, and you're like, when the hell am I going to retire? And I'm not saying this to bash anybody, right? Because I'm nowhere close to retirement myself. But I want to raise awareness. Like, this is an actual problem. Like, people are facing hardships, right? Because they can't retire. And it manifests physically. Like, it turns into Alzheimer's. It turns into dementia. It turns into diabetes. It turns into cancer if that shit isn't already happening. There's a lot of passion in my voice about this because this turns into alcoholism. Like, people start abusing certain drugs and, start having dissociative problems, social problems, because they just work. That's all they do. All they worry about is clocking in. And at the same time, it's not like they're working and making lucrative money. They can't even survive basic stuff. So what happens? Filing bankruptcy or getting into a second or third job still in their 60s, guys. And I've seen it. I'm telling y'all, man. I've had people I'm telling y'all, it's not just stats that I'm looking up. These are people that I've worked with who are in their late 50s to 60s, and they've tried retirement. And a lot of people are now double dipping and triple dipping, so they're applied for, I'm telling y'all the real, right? Y'all know this. A lot of people have applied for SSI, get in that SSI, they're like, oh, this shit is not freaking enough. And now they gotta go back to work. And like, I'm making all this money. I mean, but really, you're subjugating all this time for a check. So yeah, okay, you're making more money because you're older and you met the requirement for SSI, quote unquote, because you're double dipping. So shame on you. But dude, you're working. You're making a salary where somebody who is not ready for retirement should be making. That's worse in my opinion. But people can't get into a situation where they live as a retired person. They can't, they haven't set up their life to where they shouldn't have any more rent or mortgages. They shouldn't have any more car payments. That's the kicker. They got to a point where they physically have to depend on medicine, guys. Medicine, right? They're not just going to do health checkups. Medicine is costing people thousands of dollars a year, tens of thousands of dollars a year, medicines and surgeries. And so they kept themselves in a situation to where they haven't been sound in their health and wellness. That could be due to working and it could be due to your environment. So all this stuff, guys, where you're spending money in retirement, the average person in America is spending $500 over their actual bills or over their actual SSI check, right? That's 20%, 25% more than what they make, guys. So look, let me tie this all together, guys. When you work, the average person working in America is already spending 10% more than what they make. So when you're retiring, it increases. It's actually backwards. It should be the other way around. It's all, guys, I'm telling you. So this is why I left America, right? I have to throw that out there because the signs is everywhere. Most people are spending more than what they make before retirement. When they get in retirement, they're spending even more money than what they make. You know how wild that is, guys? It's a sick game. And they keep getting us. Guys. So that's the awareness I want to spread. The solution for me is if you guys are wanting to stay in America, you guys have to find a way to get rid of your debts and liabilities. You got to pay off your mortgage, and if you can't pay off your mortgage, you got to sell your fucking house. You got to sell that shit. Sell your house. Downgrade. Sell your car. Downgrade. If I'm retired, right, that means my kids should be out the house. They should. So why do I need a certain size house anyway? Why do I need this many cars anyway if I'm not traveling to work? Or if I'm with my husband or with my wife, it's vice versa. We don't need to go to work, so why do we need 2 to 4 cars? Pay them shits off, get rid of them shits, right? Like, you guys got to think about detaching yourself, even in America. That's how this shit works. The American dream is a lie. Detach yourself from liabilities, man. And it's also people. Liabilities are also people. Y'all got to understand this. I'm telling y'all. People are broke because of association. I'll say this again. People are broke because of association. If you know you're on a budget, and it doesn't matter whether you're retired or working, and you know you have a very well-off person who sits or who works by you and they're retiring too, or this is your neighbor or your relative, he's very well off, and they could spend this splurge money and they could make it right back. Or you have a person who's just done with their money and they're not well off and they're spending just as much money as the person who is actually well off. Like, you don't need to be around none of them because they're gonna make you spend money. You drink more, you eat more, you play more when you're around people. It's just a fact, guys. Come on. So you got to dissociate. Less people, less financial liabilities, cars, houses, clothes, right? This isn't less fun. This is more freedom. This is in America. So imagine if you could do this outside of America and actually think about it, because you can do this outside of America. Take the same practice, take that same $2,100, guys, and you can live like you're well off outside of the States. And this is the problem. And America's not going to tell you that. Like, imagine everybody taking a crash course on how to actually retire, and they're actually giving you options. Like, why don't we talk about retirement while we're in school? Like, we only talk about work and being smart and developing skills, but why don't we actually talk about retirement in school? Because it's not made, like, again, this is America. America can be very passive aggressive. Let's put this in front of you. Let's give you guys options, but let's not give you a streamlined path to those options. Let's not give you, or let's limit those resources. Let's limit your health. Let's limit your wages. Let's put more impulse living in front of you. Let's put more clubs around you. Like, you guys got to think about this stuff. People my age aren't thinking about this. People younger than me aren't thinking about this. People older than me ain't thinking about this. But this is why people who are in their 60s are stuck at work. And I'll end on this. There are people I know who can retire today, don't even have to make a check. They don't have to make any sort of income. They don't have to make any. There's people who could retire because they have enough in their bank account. And as long as they're smart with their money, whether they're in the States or not, obviously if you're out of the States, right, especially on the eastern side of the world, you can make shit just go 5 to 10 times longer, guys. You just can. That's just where you guys should be at. But if you're in the States, guys, there's a lot of people who can retire in the States and be okay. And you know they can't, because mentally, they've just been mentally driven to just keep the hustle going. They're like, well, I'm fit, I'm in shape, I'm healthy, I'm still articulate, I still got my mind, I'm still ready to contribute. And people are still chasing titles at 60. People are still chasing titles at 50. It's a game. It's a gimmick, guys. I promise you. Realize, like, understand that the CEO is becoming younger. I'm telling you. The CEO is becoming younger. This is all by design. How do I have a CEO who's in his 30s or 40s making 20 to 30 times more than me? And I'm in my 60s and I've been working longer than him. And I can't even afford a damn meal or afford some medicine that I shouldn't even be taking. It's real shit, guys. It's real stuff. I'm trying to push time, guys, right? Teaching individuals manifestations early. That is my breakdown of time. I am trying to promote time, guys. You know, how do we get more time back on our side? And the goal is to do this as early as possible. You know, they talk about a 401k. Like, I've talked to so many people who are in their 50s and 60s, like, Deshaun, make sure you got a 401k. Deshaun, do this. Deshaun, do this. And they got pure intentions, but it's not just about the 401k. Because I could get a 401k and I could have $1 million, and if I'm stupid, I could blow through that $1 million in 5 years and be stuck and go back to work, which people do. You know, we gotta take everything into account. Everything is a liability, honestly. Everything is a liability. So we gotta limit it. We gotta limit spending. We gotta limit associations. We gotta limit attachments. And we gotta work in more of a passive setting, right? Whether it's working remotely, whether it's having our own brand or business that we can value, whether it's turning around in a full sale after a couple of years, that could be an asset, right? That could be stocks, that could be, you know, real estate, you know, providing a service monthly, right? It's something that we could turn into value, guys. That can be, you know, a residual / passive income for us. And that's buildable, right? It doesn't, I'm not saying like if you're 38 and you got to start something and start making $5,000 in a month or even a year. That's not going to happen for most people. It's going to take a while, but it has to be scalable. Something that can be scalable, something that you can start without too much financial hardship, something that you can do while you're working. And so, guys, I put out an ebook. Please check it out. The link is in the description and it's in my channel bio. I'll put out an ebook discussing taking back your time. It's called Own Your Time, Working Remotely While You Fund Your Life. I talk about 10 plus platforms / websites where you can look at 10 million plus postings where you can work remote, work from home, or work fully remote around the world. So check that out. Get into that, guys, and develop a cadence of working a little bit more on your time. And then we can start from there, guys, you know? People don't have a lot of time to fund their life. So it's not always about getting a check, but it's also about how do you utilize your time. Because time moves fast. And before you know it, you'll be 60 and you're like, man, I'm still working. It moves fast, guys. Buy back your time.